Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink, Vegas, the podcast. By and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and tonight known as the dude from West Texas with bad allergies. And you've stumbled across episode number 67, our December Vegas news episode. Of course, we're also going to bring you our drink of the day, as we always do. But before we can give you any of that top shelf premium Las Vegas content that we mostly stole from other people, we've got to welcome in the founder of Dine, Drink, Travel and Dine, Drink, Vegas himself. Yes, of course, folks, I mean the high roller formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who's always waiting on that limo to take him away to that next luxurious Las Vegas destination. I can only be speaking of Bill. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, John. How are you?
I am doing quite wonderful in this Thursday night during the Advent season, for those of you who pay attention to such things. And I decided this week that in honor of the fact that shortly after this podcast drops, I will be checking into the Cosmopolitan. We're going to drink the cocktail that it is named after. Now, Bill, are you a big Cosmo girl?
I am secure in my masculinity, and sure, a Cosmo is fine. Again, there's like 4 ingredients here, so it's past my normal 2-ingredient threshold. But I like a Cosmo just fine. I've learned how to make them for Rachel. She is the one who drinks most of the Cosmos in our house.
Well, let's tell the listeners how to make it. Then we'll talk about what ingredients we opted for. So the baseline here is a 2-1-1-1 formula. 2 ounces of vodka, 1 ounce of orange liqueur, 1 ounce of lime juice, freshly squeezed if you're civilized, and 1 ounce of cranberry juice. All of that goes into your cocktail shakers with some crushed ice. And then you strain that into a chilled martini or coupe glass, or a Nick and Nora if you like, garnish with an orange twist. Bill, you are the vodka connoisseur. What vodka did you go with, and what orange liqueur?
So I went with Belvedere for the vodka because it's on sale this month in the ABC stores in Alabama, and it's a lovely vodka. If I was just sipping vodka, I would have used something else. Shevkov, if the Ukrainians were still making vodka. The Sausage Tree vodka from Ireland is phenomenal. The Goodnight Loving vodka from Texas is outstanding. But in the I didn't want to have super high-end vodka for something that I was mixing with other ingredients, and Belvedere is lovely. For orange liqueur, I use Cointreau. And for the lime juice, of course, and I'll be honest, I didn't measure to exactly 1 ounce. I just squeezed a lime in there and kind of eyeballed it. But of course, I used a freshly squeezed lime because if you use like pre-mixed cocktail ingredients, you get kicked out of the Episcopalian Country Club, and I can't have that.
Yeah, I will say, listeners, if for some reason you can't do fresh lime, at least get the key lime juice. It tastes better than most of like real lime. There's nothing real about real lime. If they have to say they're real, they're not real. Well, Bill, my orange liqueur, I went fancy. Normally I buy orange carousel. Now, this is my baller on a budget trick, by the way. Most cheap triple sec are garbage, and the Kuipers included. And so I used to always scrimp my pennies and dimes. I'd buy Grand Marnier or Cointreau or Grand Gala, which is an in-between, or some of the agave-based orange liqueurs that aren't too expensive. But Orange Carousel by De Kuipers is actually really darn good and really darn cheap. But tonight I'm going with Grand Marnier, and I felt like I had to get a little fancier with my orange liqueur because, Bill, I stepped into the Western Beverage by my house, a store you used to frequent when you resided in my Fairburg. And I was looking at vodkas, and I told the lady I was making mixed drinks, but I like a nice vodka. I like Shevkov. Y'all don't have it. I usually, if I can't get that, I get one of the better Texas vodkas. I kind of got a thing for Dripping Springs. Goodnight Loving is good. Tito's is good. She pointed me to, Bill can see this, you can't, this. This is called Texas Frost. And it was $17 for the 1.75 liter handle. And I'd already seen that bottle and passed it up because in my experience, vodka that is under $20 for a 750 is pushing it, but at that price for the handle, I generally avoid. Now, she assured me that this was, in her opinion, every bit as good as Dripping Springs and Tito's. She's wrong. I'm going to say that. This vodka, Texas Frost, not as good as the other Texas vodkas. But I will say this. I did sip some neat. For $16 a handle, it's probably the best vodka out there at that price point because it's not like McCormick or some other I hate my life cheap vodka. It's not the Texas Spirit vodka that Western Beverage sells. I found out later this is the same vodka that they use at Trader Joe's shops. So if you're buying whatever the label for the cheap vodka at Trader Joe's, it's this, right? Our Trader Joe's in Texas don't have liquor licenses. That's arcane Texas laws. So it's not bad, but I'm glad I upscaled the orange liqueur because the vodka is just,
So just let me say, John, I am super proud of you that I've taught you enough about vodka that you now care which vodka is in your drinks, right? Like you've made so much progress. I may have to learn to drink scotch the way you do.
We'll get you there someday. I will say this. Not always. Since I reached the point in my life that I was no longer selling plasma to pay the rent, I've always been picky about vodka to the point that I would not drink terrible vodka. But I did think that Tito's was the pinnacle of vodka until I started hanging out with you. And Tito's is fine, but there's way better vodkas out there, which I did not think was true. I did not think there was such a thing as a sipping vodka.
Oh, yeah.
That black bottle of Shevkov, the Shevkov Premium, I can just sit there and sip it like I would sip a fine whiskey. Like I did not know such things existed. I just thought vodka was just a flavorless way to mix with whatever jungle juice you're making. And it turns out, Bill, you're right. There is a range of vodkas. All right, enough of that dead horse.
Can I talk a little bit about what I did for cranberry juice?
Oh, yes.
So I didn't use it. What I did instead was I used the 2 ounces of vodka. I used the ounce of lime juice. I used the ounce of Cointreau. But I actually just put in 10 cranberries, and then I muddled them for quite a while. And then I put in some ice, and I shook it probably 150 times total. Like I shook it for a while, and the melted ice combined with the cranberries effectively became an ounce or so of cranberry juice. But I like the tartness. I think what I lost is that this drink isn't as sweet as I would prefer. But I do, again, I try to use as many fresh ingredients as I can. So I didn't use cranberry juice. I used cranberry scents, and you can see this. You can see mine's, actually, you can't see it great. It's pink. Yours is a red color. Mine is a pink color. It distinctly tastes of cranberries. It's just not as sweet as yours probably is.
Actually, mine is very tart as well, and I don't mind that. I mean, this is a sour. I think I tend to like sours more than you do as a general rule. It is tart, and I've had Cosmos at bars. Not that I order a Cosmo very often, but I'm manly enough to drink my little pink drink. I think a lot of bars sweeten theirs or they use ocean spray because I'm using 100% cranberry juice. You're muddling cranberries. A lot of places use a cranberry juice cocktail and that adds sweetener. So I will say that, listeners, if you find that this is not sweet enough for you, go ahead and use the ocean spray cocktail instead of just straight juice. But I went straight juice because I am not afraid of puckering. And Bill just dropped out on that comment. He had nothing to say. The thought of me puckering left Bill speechless. All right, on that note, Bill, why don't we jump into some news? Scott of Vital Vegas reported that bingo has returned to the Strip thanks to everybody's favorite luxury destination, Circus Circus. He didn't mention if either Matlock or Wheel of Fortune will be on 24 hours a day in the hotel televisions, though. Bill, any interest in getting out your dauber and playing a little bingo in Vegas?
So if I was going to do it, I would stay at the Plaza. I went into the Circus once. It was very sad. I have no need to go back. The Plaza is at least clean. But I played bingo once in grad school, and it was just a weird vibe. And I can't imagine taking the weird vibe of bingo and adding Vegas to it. So if that's what you want to do, I hope you have a lot of fun. Me and the adults will be out drinking whiskey somewhere, and we'll tell you where to find us when you're done.
Oh, I promise the people that are playing bingo in Vegas are in fact adults. They are the adults who get a discount at Denny's. We are basically at that age, but yeah, I'm not ready to bingo yet. Not my jam. I will say I do want to go into slots of fun if I'm ever on the north end of the strip. I don't want to stay at Circus, but the slots of fun area, they've cleaned it up. They've done new carpet. The videos look nice. They got some cheap tacos that don't look half bad. I think I could kill an hour playing slots of fun at Circus, but like you, that's about as deep into that property as I want to get.
Which is totally fair. Well, Scott also shared that the creator of Letai and 8 East is partnering with the creator of Vesta Coffee to bring Viking Mike's Alpine Yurt Bar to the Arts District. So, John, how much stuff has to be in the Arts District before it becomes its own independent, like, tourist destination the way that Fremont Street or the Strip is?
So the only hotel there is the English Hotel, which is not doing spectacularly well. Tourists are getting over there. You and I went to Esther's, and there's lots of videos promoting things in the Arts District. But I think it's going to remain a playground for locals with a smattering of tourists unless and until you get a casino and hotel down there. They have one hotel which has no casino. I will say, I thought I had been all of the kinds of drunk. I have been dirt road near the Mexican border drunk. I have been Walmart tent in a state park drunk. I have been sleazy motel in the outskirts of Abilene drunk. I have been a lot of the kinds of drunk. Bill, have you ever been yurt drunk?
I have not, but when you say sleazy motel on the outskirts of Abilene, do you mean the Royal Inn?
There may or may not have been a few social functions at my alma mater hosted in some of the rooms there. And I will say they picked that particular color of carpet because it hides vomit from jungle juice.
So at some point when our listeners can't hear us, I need to tell you a story.
Oh, good. I probably got one too.
Okay, great. Well, what's our next story, John?
Let's see. ESPN reported December 4th that the Las Vegas A's have hit all their construction markers for the new stadium to be open in time for 2028. Breathe.
Words are hard, John.
Yes, they are. To be open in time for the 2028 season. I get more alcohol. I said it. Critically, they noted that the A's president, Mark Bedane, I almost said Bidet, Mark Bedane was instrumental in getting Allegiant Stadium opened in time for the Raiders for the 2020 season. So they have a plan. They have a schedule. They're hitting their marks. Will the money hold up?
So you and I have talked about this on the podcast before. And so the principal person saying that it's not going to hold up is Scott at Vital Vegas, who knows more about Vegas than we can ever hope to, and is almost always right. And we've talked about it before. I disagree with him. I think that the money does hold up. The real question is whether the current A's ownership group holds up. But I think we're far enough along now that Major League Baseball doesn't let this fail. And I think the fact that the A's president has brought another large stadium in Las Vegas to fruition is a good sign. They're hitting all their markers. But yeah, I guess for me, the real news story here, which somehow I hadn't realized before, is that their president has done something like this before in this town. And a baseball stadium's easier than a football stadium because it's a lot smaller.
And I will say this, one of the stories I did not link to, but I can't remember which publication had it. Las Vegas locally retweeted it and posted it on Facebook. For 2 years in a row, Allegiant Stadium, home of the Raiders, has been the number one producing athletic venue in the United States. When you watch a game on TV, they ain't all Raiders fans. Fan bases travel to see their team in Vegas because it's Vegas. So I hear what Scott has to say about the money, but what Scott is not factoring in, and Scott admits he's not a sports fan. We are. And you and I, as sports fans, understand that even because you watch more college than you do pros, even at the college level, it's a business. And these stadiums make money. So this thing's getting done because it's going to make money. And I will tell you now, I'm going to be there on some random Tuesday in July to see my Texas Rangers take on the Los Angeles A's. Like, that's going to happen. And I am not the only baseball fan that feels that way.
Yeah, well, and in your particular case, too, the A's AA minor league team is in your town, right? So
Right.
you've got a reason to go. But yeah, I will show up to watch literally anybody play. In other construction news, Twitter user Chris Holmes, who is at 710 suited, shared some pretty incredible drone footage of the progress of the guitar tower at the Hard Rock, which also looks like it is coming along nicely. And John, you and I have talked about this before. You're excited about the construction of the Hard Rock, and I get it, and I get stuff has to change. I am always going to shed a tear for the Mirage and what it used to be. And honestly, what I think I'm going to do once this gets built is I'll just get one of the rooms in the old tower and kind of go check out the new construction, right? How about you?
Yeah, Bill, I hear you. I loved the Mirage. I think I had 3 stays at the Mirage and stumbled through there more times than I can remember. But all good things come to an end. As much as I miss the Mirage, and I think the Hard Rock messed up not retaining the Beatles Love Show and ditching that theater. You're a rock and roll themed resort. It's the Beatles. Somebody do the math. I want to stay in one of these tower rooms, the guitar tower, because the views of the Strip are going to be breathtaking. It really will. So I am super excited about this. I can't wait till it gets done.
Fair. Well, you know what, John? I will follow you in there regardless. And I would love to see your room. I'm just going to save some money on one of the lovely rooms in the old tower because that's going to be cheaper. Oh my goodness. Did I just go baller on a budget on you?
You did, but I will say this is one of the reasons I'm excited is the Seminoles have a reputation of being a value luxury property. In other words, they give you baller on a budget. That's what they're known for in Florida. I might not be able to afford the Strip View suites in the guitar tower. I may have to be in the old towers too. We'll see what the pricing structure's like. But I am optimistic that the Seminoles will set off a price war. I am hoping they follow the formula of great gambling rules and wonderful affordable dining. I think this might just be what the Strip needs to start making it work for both the high rollers and the ballers on a budget. I think the Seminoles might shake things up. That's conjecture, but we'll see. Here's what's not conjecture. Well, actually, it is conjecture. Multiple outlets have commented on the looming confusion on gambling tax laws, which we haven't updated since we did this. But in the One Big Beautiful Bill, which, by the way, is the nickname that both Rachel has for Bill and our buddy Derek does too. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's a provision that drops the gambling loss deduction from 100% of your losses to 90%. So theoretically, let's say that you go to Vegas and you have $100 in winnings, but you also have $100 in losses. Under the old tax rules, those wipe out. You got nothing. Under the new tax rules, you owe taxes on that $10 difference, right? Because you're going to get taxed on 100, but you're going to get no taxes on 90. So there's a deduction and you're on the hook. The more you are in that ratio, $1,000, $10,000, the more that hurts. Now, casino operators, gamblers, and other lobbying groups are feverishly begging Congress to fix this ASAP. President Trump, never known for being hyperbolic, weighed in and said not only are they going to fix it, he's going to get rid of gambling taxes altogether. However, the White House has yet to actually suggest any legislation for the House of Representatives. Boy, there's a lot of typos on this sheet. I wonder who typed that up. Oh, yeah, me. The White House has not yet sent over any suggested legislation to the House of Representatives, which, as you remember from your 8th grade civics class, all tax bills have to start in the House of Representatives because we are against taxation without representation. That's why the T went into Boston Harbor. So it remains to be seen whether the president will actually follow through on his end. And even if he does follow through and ask Congress to do this, no members of Congress in either party have come out to endorse the president's plan to eliminate all gambling taxes because it turns out people gamble a lot and the federal government needs some money. On the bright side, the IRS did announce, I believe late last night, that they will be raising the threshold from $1,200 to $2,000 on a mandatory W-2G, the gambler's tax form, which means Vegas properties can, if they wish, now raise the hand pay limit to $2,000 over $1,200. Nobody's announced that they will, but that is now a legal possibility.
So you'll notice that a whole lot of slot machines have top prizes of like $1,195. My guess is that a whole lot of slot machines are about to get top prizes of $1,995.
Yep.
So I think this is a good deal for those people who occasionally hit that nice jackpot, not life changing, but weekend changing jackpot. Right. Because let's face it, John, if you hit $2,000 on a jackpot, you're going to enjoy the rest of that weekend, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to enjoy.
At this point, if I hit 200, I'll be happy.
Yeah, but at 2,000, we're probably enjoying the rest of that weekend on your money. So I think the hand pay thing probably actually does change, and I think it's good news and a fair change. I am dubious about whether or not the other changes actually happen.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I will say I don't think 2,000 is high enough. Remember, the $1,200 limit was set in, I think, 1978, 1979.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, $1,200 in 1978 money and $1,200 in 2025 money are not the same thing. And I feel like this should be in the $5,000 to $10,000 range to keep up with inflation, but that's just me.
I think that makes total sense. Well, in other news, and I've used this phrase on this podcast before, but Las Vegas is a real place where real people actually live. And the Las Vegas Review-Journal reported that September unemployment in Las Vegas was 5.7%, which was the third highest amongst U.S. metro areas. So that is what I know. That is what the story reported. I am now speculating, and it's important to be clear which is which. But now that I'm speculating, I think that's a sign that the tourist economy is softening, because while there are absolutely non-tourism jobs in Las Vegas, a huge chunk of Las Vegas is there to support the tourist economy. I think that people are getting laid off, and I think that's a sign that things aren't going fantastically for the casinos. John, is that how you take it, or do you read something else here?
I'm honestly not sure, because last week we had numbers that said that the number of jobs being created in the tourist industry were up, at least in September, year to year. So that would be a pretty steep decline. Now, there's two things I want to say. When I took college economics back in the dark ages, my professor always said, well, 5% is functionally 0%, because you always have 5% of the population that are transitioning jobs, and that doesn't count. So if your unemployment's under 5, it's practically 0, and if it's within a point of 5, you're okay. Now, the government, since the 90s, has started to juice the stats a little, where that number is not so good, and economists start freaking out somewhere around 4.7%. So 5.7 is not good. I guess I'd have to do some homework to see where it was back in September, where those numbers we posted on the last episode came from.
The real news, though, is that it's higher than almost every metro area in the U.S.
Yes.
Which means that the Las Vegas economy is struggling in a way that most cities in the United States aren't, which means something is different about Las Vegas.
Okay, but I will say this too, and I'm gonna. We didn't do a main story, so fine, storytelling. Way back in the day when I used to be way more churchier. I think I've told the listeners before, once upon a time, I was a man of the cloth. Now I'm more of a man of a bottle, but whatever.
I just hope you always have cloth on, John.
Yes.
That's good for all of our eyeballs.
In your presence, yes, because unlike Derek, I do not call you Big Beautiful Bill, and we are not spooning. But I will say that back in the day, in my more churchy days, I took a mission trip to Mexico, and I know all the suffering. I was in Cancun, all the suffering. But back in those days, there were thousands of new jobs created every year in the city of Cancun. The problem is that for every brand new job that was created, 10 uh, working age adults were moving to the city. So even though more jobs were being created, unemployment was very high because more people were flooding in than there were jobs. So I guess my question to really make sense of this 5.7% number, if the population of Las Vegas has remained relatively steady or declined compared to the last time these numbers were issued, then this 5.7% is a problem. If the population is growing faster than the unemployment rate, it is possible that Vegas does not have an economic problem. It's just that Vegas is attracting more workers than there are jobs, but they could still be booming, as was Cozumel and Cancun way back in the mid to late 90s. So my one caveat is this is one statistic in isolation. And as Mark Twain said, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Without some other statistics to ground me in how to interpret this, I don't know if this is really bad news, moderately bad news, or not really bad news at all.
Yeah, fair. Well, John, speaking of really bad news, what do we have in the category of Vegas WTF?
Las Vegas Locally posted a story that came from the Independent UK. And when we added this to the Rud Sheet a couple nights ago, nobody was on this. But today happens to be Thursday, December 18th. If you've been on Vegas Twitter, this has been everywhere today. So we got it on the Rud Sheet before we were just late to record. Here's the sad story of Michael Duke Thomason, a resident of Puerto Rico, where he is a snowbird. He's retired. On January 23rd of 2024, he blacked out while playing blackjack at the high limit room in the Aria. When he awoke, he was handcuffed to a wall in the back room of the Aria, facing fraud charges for not paying back a $75,000 marker he took out while inebriated. He ultimately wound up making restitution in order to get charges dropped to get himself out of jail. But now he's suing the Aria and MGM Resorts, alleging that he was almost certainly drugged and that his condition should have been obvious to casino staff, who should have prevented him from signing the marker, or failing that, should have at least recognized based on his conduct and near obliteration that he was in no condition to continue gambling. I'll point out at this point, the law says they're not supposed to let you gamble when you're overserved. Now, we've all been to Vegas. We've seen some overserved people gamble.
Indeed.
Anyway, yeah. So he says they should have cut him off when his condition became apparent. He is seeking a jury trial, and he's not specified how much he wants in damages. Bill, does this story pass the sniff test with you?
It might, but before we get to that question, I've got a different one. So he came to handcuffed to the wall in a back room. And if that's true, then there's only two possibilities. Possibility one is that the Aria security handcuffed him.
Yeah, let me stop there because I didn't add this to the run sheet.
All right.
The Aria security did detain him, but not on the casino floor and not in the high limit room. He was incoherent in the Sky Suites lounge. He's a high roller, frequents MGM properties, was staying in the Sky Suites. You and I are both very familiar with that lounge. He was passed out in the Sky Suites lounge area, and that's when they effected his detention and arrest.
All right. So, but let me finish this point because it's really super important. Was it Aria security who handcuffed him, or was it the Las Vegas PD?
So I need to go back into the story and look at that from the Independent. It was a little fuzzy in the details. Aria security detained him and called the PD. I'm not sure who put him in handcuffs. I would assume Las Vegas PD.
Well, because there are two possibilities here. One is that a private company detained somebody to the point that they used handcuffs. That makes me feel super uncomfortable. Possibility two is that the Las Vegas PD handcuffed him, but instead of taking him to a public facility, detained him in their back room. So there's some details I want to know, but to the base story, right? There are three possibilities. One of them is that he was drugged and overserved and the ARIA screwed up. One possibility is that absolutely true that he screwed up. And the third possibility is that it is somewhere between those two. And I think that's one of the things that our jury system is so good at, is having a group of 12 reasonable people sort through things to figure out what happened. Because sure, any of those three are possibilities. What do you think, John?
Well, one, I think that there are cameras everywhere on the property. So when this gets to trial, the picture should get pretty clear. And I will say this. I don't believe, and I'm really struggling with this story. I would not sue MGM or Caesars or one of these big properties who are going to have really good lawyers and really good video footage unless I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that they did me wrong at some point along the way. Now, I'm not saying MGM drugged this guy. In fact, I don't believe that's true.
No, I can't imagine that.
You're not going to risk a multi-billion-dollar business in Vegas to roofie one idiot into $75,000 worth of markers, right? So I'm not saying nobody drugged this guy. It wasn't MGM Properties. The other thing I struggle with too is, let's just have the honest talk. The law says they shouldn't keep serving you alcohol when you're clearly inebriated. They shouldn't let you gamble when you're clearly inebriated. Anybody who spent 10 minutes in a Las Vegas casino knows neither of those laws are actually enforced. And the overwhelming majority of us, myself included, who frequent Vegas, don't really want that law enforced. We know what we signed up for when we step in. So, I kind of am siding with the big bad evil company on this one.
So, I'm going to partially agree with you. I actually agree that is the most likely. Okay, I fully agree that no, of course MGM didn't drug him. And I will agree that the most likely scenario is that this guy screwed up. But I'm thinking about one of the reasons I've thought before about ending my career and going to be a bartender. Because my work would end at the end of my shift. There's some parts of that are fun. I would enjoy being a bartender. And one of the reasons I don't do it is that as a bartender in every jurisdiction in the United States, I am liable if I keep giving my customer alcohol past the point that he or she should have had it.
Right.
It is a well-established principle of American law over the last 2-3 decades that you don't keep serving people who clearly can't control themselves. So on the one point, sure, we don't want people gambling who are a little bit tipsy. And sure, when we go to Vegas, we know what we signed up for. I think Vegas has to exist by the same system of laws as the rest of the United States. And in the rest of the United States, you are responsible for what happens if you keep serving them. And one of the things I can absolutely believe happened is somebody had a fat marker and somebody's like, of course, Mr. Thomason, here's another pour of the very expensive whiskey that you've been enjoying.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will say that I would be very curious. I'm hoping in the process of discovery at the trial that the video footage goes public. I kind of want to see what happened. On the other hand, I don't want to see any video footage of me in Vegas, which surely exists. Oh, Lord. But I'm going to pretend that it doesn't.
You know, nobody wants to see the footage of you with your Bible and your prayer group. Like, it's the most boring footage ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Eating a salad and,
water.
And balancing my budget the Dave Ramsey way. All right. On that note, Bill, I think we should probably bail out of this episode because I'm about 3 Cosmos deep and the audio will only get worse from here. Why don't you tell the listeners where they can find more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink Travel content?
Listeners, thanks so much for joining us for this podcast. We hope you'll also join us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we bring you short and focused videos to help you plan your next trip. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we bring you videos about the rest of my travel adventures, including my trips to Ireland and, importantly for this podcast, the executive lounges in the Las Vegas airport. You can also find me on essentially every social media platform at Dine Drink Travel, and the most important of those is X, because that's where you can find John.
I am Dine Drink John. I'm happy to talk to you about all things Las Vegas, about adult beverages, about coffee, about barbecue, about Texas-based sports. The Cowboy season is over. I know they have 3 more games, but the Cowboy season is over. Anything else you want to talk about? Listeners, we know you have a mountain of choices in podcasts. We're glad you picked ours. Do us a huge favor. Whatever podcast platform you happen to listen to, like, subscribe, retweet, repost, whatever it is. If you got a friend that's planning a trip to Vegas that could benefit from our sage wisdom as seasoned Las Vegas experts, or a mortal enemy that hates listening to old, fat, disgusting white guys talk and drink, share our podcast with them. Either way, you'll help us grow an audience so that we can keep bringing you this top-shelf premium Las Vegas content. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and until the next episode, happy travels.